Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with our second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend, answering more of our community's questions. Hopefully you tuned in yesterday for all sorts of questions and answers on elevated levels of B12 in the blood, looking at an anxiety rash or skin flushing, looking at overall increase in red blood cells in the body, along with Addisons disease and hypothyroidism. We talked about reactions to anesthesia and possibly intravenous antibiotics. Then we talked about some of the CBO protocol and still dealing with bloating and gas. And then we talked about constipation. So all sorts of great questions yesterday. I have no doubt that today's will be equally as interesting. So I'm opening up our community's questions right now, and I just pulled them up. Today's episode 2347. As you know, I don't do any prep work for the show, just 25 years, right? 25 years of prep work to get to this point where I read your questions and I give you my opinion as to what might be the underlying root cause based on my experience in being in private practice for that long, full-time, 22 going on 23 years, and many years before that, part-time. And that is it. So why don't we dive right into your questions? First question is coming in from Anonymous. Anonymous says, I wrote in on Facebook in your support email and was referred to ask here. Can you tell me why the omega-3 capsules in liquid has different EPA and DHA ratios and the liquid has added DPA? What would be the reason a person would select one option or the other besides not wanting a capsule or liquid? That's a great question. Yeah, so whenever, that's always, I think that's the first thing that people should do. You should ask your question at cabralsupportgroup.com, or if you're in our IHP community, then you would just ask it in the IHP group, and Michelle or Daniel or one of our amazing coaches are going to be able to share with you an answer and like multiple ways to look at it from podcasts, etc. So this is a good, obviously, time to write in as well. So happy to answer this. Anonymous. Okay, so not a person's name. So let me give you the reasons why. 90% of people use our capsules. All right, so 90% of people use the daily omega-3 support. Just 2 capsules a day. You can take it both at dinner if you want, mid-meal, pretty easy. And that's going to give you about a 2.5 to 1 ratio of EPA to DHA. That's our preferred for most people. Okay. So that's what we want. I mean, that's because it's like the most convenient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we have the liquid. Why? Some people aren't good at swallowing those soft gels. Totally understand. And there's some people who want a little bit higher in DHA. So the liquid it's not a 1-to-1, but it's like a 1.5 to 1 of EPA to DHA. And there's a little bit of the DPA, not a little bit, 175 milligrams. So that's not insignificant. And that rounds out your omega-3s from essentially fish. ALA you could get from plant-based foods, flax, chia, etc. Okay, so that I think is going to give you the answer that you're seeking there. And we mainly use the omega-3 capsules. If you want a little bit higher in the DHA for specific reasons, like more maybe brain-based. Although I would still use the EPA because, again, what happens is EPA can very easily flow to DHA. But the DPA, and I know I'm getting really complicated with all these 3-letter words, is actually helpful for some people with, again, so let me give you my disclaimer. I can't provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, or medical diagnosis. But when you're talking about platelet aggregation, sticking together of those platelets, DPA has been found to be helpful for that. It's also been found to be helpful for cognitive-based issues. So let's just say someone has dementia or reasons like that. Well, maybe they're going to use the liquid and because they don't necessarily swallow capsules as well either. So that would be a reason why. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Rainey is up next. I have searched the podcast archives and I haven't found anything on this topic, so I was wondering if you could touch on it. Could you explain the Reticuloendothelial System, RES, specifically the iron recycling system? I see many practitioners talk about the iron recycling system and how supplementing with iron is unnecessary and possibly dangerous. I would love to get your explanation on this topic. Thank you, as I value your knowledge and wisdom. Happy to help, Rainey. So I don't know that I specifically know exactly what you're asking me. So let me try to answer this in a few different ways. And if I didn't get to the crux of the answer, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but then feel free to let me know. Feel free to just write back in. So The RES is typically the reticuloendothelial system. We're talking about more of a phagocytotic system where the phagocytes are actually destroying pathogens in the body. Can happen in the liver, the spleen, other areas of the body as well, where we're removing these harmful things like monocytes are there, phagocytes. There's a lot of breaking down. In terms of that affecting the iron, I think we might be talking about different languages right now. And it could also just be me not fully comprehending and understanding your question. So again, like I said, if this next part doesn't answer it, just always write back in. I'm always happy to do additional follow-ups, always. So in terms of iron recycling and what I think about iron in general is I think too many people are using iron-based supplements unnecessarily. And the reason is that they might be using iron just because they see some type of anemia on their blood work. And I've been answering this actually, I guess it's becoming more common. I'm sure there's some Instagram influencers out there talking a lot about it, right? But let me share with you. In order for iron to work properly, we need the thyroid to be working properly. We also need to make sure there's enough magnesium, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin C, B6, vitamin B6, paradoxal 5-phosphate, B9, which is folate, methylfolate, and methylcobalamin, which is vitamin B12. And we need zinc and copper. So everything has to work. Like there's not, like you don't, that's why conventional medicine is so wrong with just like a single pharmaceutical approach or single nutrient approach. Like the body works as a whole. So that's how we get oxygen essentially into our red blood cells. The second part is that iron, like overloading iron, not from food, is typically not the best idea. And the reason is that it's highly corrosive and oxidative. Now, some people literally do need more iron. So that is very important though. So again, there's no all for one. Anybody who tells you that like there's an all for one is wrong, it's just wrong, right? They're right in a lot of instances for those people, but they're also wrong in certain instances when someone actually does need iron. I'm not a big iron infusion type person. I've never believed in that. It's too much iron all at once. Your body possibly couldn't deal with that. That's going to cause a lot of oxidative stress and free radical damage on the body. So hopefully that was helpful. And again, if I didn't get to your particular answer that you wanted, just write back in. Happy to answer it. All right. Samantha's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for your time. 10 years ago, I had what I thought was painful dermatitis or eczema on my hands, but it looks like chilblains. 2 years ago, my family and I found out we had mold toxicity and are still working through the protocol with a functional medicine practitioner. My suspicion is years ago, chilblains was my first symptom from an overactive immune response due to the unknown ongoing mold exposure. Do you have any insight on the root causes is for chilblains and if it's related to histamine and what can be done to heal from this disease, not just manage it? Thank you, Samantha. Okay, so I know that I've spoken about chilblains because it's a very unique word, right? So let's see if we can find it on StephenCabral.com/podcast. StephenCabral.com/podcast. Let's type it in that search box. Typing it in. Okay. Episode 2081. I answered this on that podcast. So if you go to StephenCabral.com/2081, you will see my answer on chilblains. So definitely check that out. And then just like in short, what we want to look at is, again, if you're exposed to cold or different changes in air temperature, or you start to get little like hives or welts or spots on the hands, yes, it could be chilblains. But again, like you said, there's an underlying root cause. I always 100% of the time look towards the Candida metabolic and vitamins test first. That's my first. Is there overgrowth of yeast or bacteria in the gut? We look at that. I love running the bacterium parasite stool test as well. Are there parasites? Is there leaky gut potentially? I want to look at that. So that's always my first. And then I'm running, well, I run the Big Five. So I like running the Big Five labs. If you're not, I would go Candida metabolic vitamins test. I would do the bacterium parasite stool test. And I would also run the minerals and metals test to look for heavy metals and electrolyte-based imbalances. Why is that important? Well, again, an inverse ratio of calcium to magnesium or sodium to potassium can show a weakered autonomic nervous system response. That's important. If you ran the stress, mood, and metabolism test, you might find lower levels of cortisol during the day, and that is going to then not give you the natural anti-inflammatory processes and help the immune system as it should. So again, like there's never one thing, right? If we run the omega-3 test, which is the last part of the big five, you might have higher level of omega-6s to omega-3s. So there's multiple reasons for why this is happening. And just like you said, it might also be mold. So our job is to not guess, and it's to test. And if you've already been dealing with this for 2 years, you're working with a functional medicine practitioner, run those big five with them. You don't have to run them with us. You can run them with that practitioner. Get those done, figure out the underlying root cause, work on rebalancing it, and yes, you can absolutely recover, 100%. All right, Alicia is up next. I remember Alicia from last week or 2 weeks ago because she spells it phonetically for me, which is very helpful for my my challenged pronunciation of names. All right, it says, hi, Dr. Cabral. My question today is about protocols in sleep. I started the CBO protocol and my sleep is worse. Every day when I took the CBO supplements, I woke up between 3 and 3:30. When I'm up at this time, there is no chance for me to go back to sleep. I took a break from the supplements and my sleep went back to normal. I'm not sure what that means. Meantime, I got my stool test results that detected Entamoeba E. coli. So I decided to do the parasite protocol. The same thing happened. I started taking supplements for the para support and I started waking up between 3 and 3:30. What do you think is happening? Any thoughts on how to work around that? I need my sleep for proper healing. I always appreciate your help and thank you greatly. All right. Alicia, always happy to help. And again, like that's the thing is we've worked with now well over 250,000 people. We really have seen it all. And that's why, again, feel free to write in. Like I really am happy to help because this is not common. These things do not commonly happen, but they do happen. And so I'm happy to answer them. So it's funny because I've done many podcasts on this as well, but not like on this specific question. So if you wake up between the 2 and 4 p.m. time period, sometimes even close to 1, it is often a liver detox. It is a detox period of the body. Ayurveda talks about this all the time. There is deep detoxification going on during that period of time after midnight, between like 1 and 4. Why is this important to talk about? It's important because if you're waking up at this time, there can certainly be an overwhelm on the detox-based systems of the body. What do? Let's do a 21-day functional medicine detox, Alicia. Let's open up those liver pathways. You can even do it at the same time as the CBO. And you might want to do your CBO supplements, even though they're upon waking and before bed. The before bed ones might just be a little bit much on your body right now. Try doing one of the antimicrobials before bed. And if it's still disrupting your sleep, maybe it isn't. Like if it's not, okay, we just do one, then we do what? 3 in the morning instead of the 2 and 2. And if it's just not happening before bed, again, so let's talk about month 1. Saccharomyces boulardii, the antimicrobials, and the fluorofilm. All right, probably the fluorofilm and the Saccharomyces boulardii will be fine, right? So what about the antimicrobial? And if they're not, again, just do what I'm saying right now. Take them all in the morning. If you need to, you need to. You can also do it mid-afternoon away from food. You just might not be able to do them before bed because there's a lot of detox. There's a lot of die-off happening. And again, it doesn't mean the protocol is not working. It actually means it's working. Like that's the thing. Now, again, you can always stop just like you did, which is, I think, the smart thing to do. Write in and just say, how can I do this differently? And that's how you can do it differently. So you can try doing just a couple products before bed. Any reaction? No. Again, you can always just do one product before bed. And then you add them in. Oh, this is the product that's causing it. Okay. Let me try one capsule. It's still happening. Okay. Let me do it either mid-afternoon or all upon waking. All right. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, another question from Alicia. One more question. My test results also showed I have very low levels of pancreatic enzyme, elastase. It should be more like 200. All right, let's see. I take digestive enzymes with every meal. Is there anything else I should do? Or should I take HCl together with digestive enzymes? Is low elastase reversible? Or am I going to be stuck with low numbers for the rest of my life? All right. Alicia, happy to help with this as well. Okay, so no, to me, again, just based on your last question and based on now, again, I'm not providing any medical diagnosis, no medical diagnosis or no medical treatment plans. This is natural health. We're looking at underlying root causes. You may have just a sluggish liver. And again, that's why, again, so this is, again, just based on 20 plus years of practice. I've seen this many times. Let's work on the liver first. Let's work on detoxification, all right? 21-day functional medicine detox. Let's open up those liver detox pathways used in phase 1 and phase 2 detox that comes with a functional medicine detox. Let's do that. Then let's, like you said, let's use the digestive enzymes, maybe not just 1, maybe 2 to 3 per meal. And then if you need to, take your betaine HCl, maybe with pepsin, mid-meal. All right, not beginning of the meal, but mid-meal for that. You can take your enzymes at the same time. That would be totally fine. And let's go from there. But yes, you're able to absolutely reverse all of these things for sure. All right, let's see. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's get in one more question. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'd love to hear your thoughts on plant-based protein powders. I don't know if I can use actual company names or not, but I've used Genuine Health and Sun Warrior over the last few years, and I notice I can tolerate some powders, but cannot tolerate most plant proteins in whole form. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Looks like both companies are calling their products fermented, which also raises questions. I know you suggest cutting anything fermented if you have gut dysbiosis, but how could any of those good, healthy fermented bacteria survive the processing required to make these powders? So is it necessary to cut these powders with gut dysbiosis? Is the purpose of fermentation in these cases meant to purely break down the plant in a more digestible form rather than using it to repopulate the gut with good fermented bacteria, as you would do with homemade ferments like sauerkraut? I can understand that it might help break down the plant, but I don't see any good bacteria would ever survive the processing. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Yeah, this is really interesting. And you bring up a good point, Summer. So thank you for the question and thank you for the good points. So when I talk about fermented foods, and I don't say that you can't never eat them, I say during the CBO protocol, your body may be sensitive to the bacteria in some of these fermented products. But I do agree with you. I don't think that fermented protein powders probably have any bacteria left surviving after they've been hydrolyzed and they've been processed. So we just keep in mind that it's not always just about the bacteria. It's also about the histamines in a lot of fermented foods. So it's also histamine levels. So if you're someone that deals with skin rashes or headaches or migraines or brain fog or irritability or low mood or learning disabilities, I shouldn't say disabilities, learning imbalances, then I would be careful with histamines for right now. So, but the thing is, if you're not having an issue with them, I have no problem with that. I really don't at all. And so that's the thing, is that if you are non-reactive, then great. So I'm good with that. And also, I also believe in plant-based protein powders. Our daily nutritional support uses pea and a little bit of rice to make a complete amino acid in that powder. So, and I also, believe in hemp protein powders. And so, and the reason why you might tolerate it better as a powder rather than in whole form is your body may have a more difficult time breaking down those plant proteins. So to me, it seems like you do need to work on your gut. That's what it seems. But again, I would either run the Candida metabolic and vitamins test and or the bacteria and parasite stool test to work on these. But I'm basically saying I'm okay with you doing the plant-based protein powders. I understand why you can't break down proteins, vegan-based proteins, maybe in whole form, plant-based proteins in whole form. And I do agree that there's probably no bacteria left in the powders that you're talking about. Just watch for the histamines, all right? So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you, everyone, for writing in today. Great show. Really great questions. Really, really great. I, of course, expect nothing less from our community. Have an amazing rest of the weekend. Tune in tomorrow for our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Don't miss it. It's the best way to start the week.